Hey everybody, my name is Jim Shelby. I'm excited to be sitting here today with Joel Rutherford. No, you're not double visioned on the camera. We wore different shirts on purpose just to make sure there's no confusion. But today we continue our real conversations. And again, this one with Joel Rutherford. I'm excited to be sitting here with you because you're a little off kilter, I think, a little crazy, a little wild.
I've heard that.
And I enjoy that about you. But let's start. Tell everybody who you are, kind of what you do, and we'll go from there.
My name is Joel Rutherford, as Jim said, and I am with Impact 5, a property management company that we're trying to take a little bit beyond property management. I've been doing real estate transactions, rental property, investment property transactions in South St. Louis City for about 12 years now. And I really enjoy it. I'm really passionate about it, and we're got some things in the works right now that we're really looking forward to this year to help people out, both tenants and investors. And we like to bring those two sides of the transaction together and help everybody get along in a industry where those relationships aren't always so friendly.
Gotcha. What inspired you to do that? That's not like, I don't know any 6-year-old sitting there going, I want to be an astronaut, and then the next kid goes, I want to be a property manager. Mm-hmm. So how did you get into that?
I've always been attracted to the housing market. Okay. And as you know, I'm not really one to play by all the rules. So I was in mortgage banking, and there were too many rules, too many things outside of my control. You couldn't be creative. It was just kind of check the box and move on to the next day. And I didn't really enjoy that. And I met a guy one time that was doing some investment property deals up in North County. He came to me to talk about some financing, and kind of inspired me to check into that. I grew up in South St. Louis City, and so I wasn't really interested in doing the North County piece. And I came down here and started looking around for properties and gathered some investment capital and some people together and started purchasing some properties, and then it pretty quickly became a full-time job, at which time I started the management company. And so it's just kind of grown from there. At times I've managed upwards of 500 or 600 properties. Right now we're at about 300. And I want to grow that, but I want to grow it systematically in a way that we're not watering it down as we get bigger.
Gotcha. So you have gone through some transition in your business. Are you comfortable talking about kind of the evolution of each of the phases of your
Absolutely.
Business and what brought you to this point?
Mm-hmm. So I started out mostly owning properties, which is a different dynamic than managing properties. I was owning them and managing them. And there's a whole lot more emotion in that. There's a whole lot more that goes into it on both sides of it. I then started to get some family and friends to invest, and they started owning and buying houses. That it's a nice retirement income stream for them. And then I started expanding the management business. And with the market the way that it's been in South St. Louis for the last year or two, prices are crazy. And so a lot of out-of-state investors have been attracted to the market. And so a lot of the people that I previously worked for locally have sold their properties just because it was opportunistic for them. And so now we work with a lot of out-of-state investors, and I really like the aspect of educating them on St. Louis, and we really try to focus on investors that care about the property and care about the tenants and not just about the profit. So,
gotcha. Let's talk a little bit about you. So you're from St. Louis originally?
Yes.
All right. So obvious question.
I went to Lutheran South.
Okay.
Which is at Tesson Ferry and Gravois in South County. Graduated in '95, and from there I joined the military. Spent 8 years in the military. Came home, got into banking, and now I'm here.
Gotcha. Tell me about your family.
I am divorced. I have 2 boys, 11 and 6, Owen and Will, and spend a lot of time with them, playing sports and participating in all their activities when I'm not working. And they live in West County, and I live downtown.
Gotcha. So you recently started Impact 5.
Yes.
Recently as in you went through some rebranding, and that is like brand spanking new.
Yes, I would refer to it more as rebranding the management company than starting a new one. We have a lot of new investors coming in, a lot of new, managing properties for out-of-state investors is a completely different dynamic than it is for managing local investors. Managing local investors, they're more involved on a day-to-day basis. They drive by their properties, they call me, they ask questions about things. Out-of-state investors don't have that luxury, and so it's on me, more so than it is with local investors, to keep them abreast of the situation, of what's going on. And we do that by leveraging technology, which you've been a huge help with, and giving them full transparency into the maintenance that's currently going on, the real-time receipting of rents and things like that. And that's been a huge change for me in terms of how we communicate with our owners, because they're not here. I can't meet with them on a weekly basis and have coffee and talk about things. It's, a lot of cases they're 1,000 miles away or more. And so it's just a different dynamic, but it's one that I really enjoy.
So in your business, I think every entrepreneur, and I would categorize you almost as a serial entrepreneur.
I would agree with that.
Every entrepreneur goes through challenges, and I think for the really hardcore serial entrepreneur, challenges are the easy things.
The opportunity.
The tragedy of something going wrong is always huge. So tell me about the most difficult thing you've gone through in your business as an entrepreneur.
I would say that having family members and lifelong close friends, I went through a period where we had a situation with the bank was not honoring the commitments that they had made, and so we were at a point where we were either going to have to lawyer up and spend a lot of money fighting them, or we were going to have to compromise with them. And it was a bit of a strain on some of my relationships, because I was the centerpiece of the whole transaction. But like anything else, you wake up and you go to work and you work through it, and eventually you're going to get to a better place, and that happened in that case. But I would say that doing very complicated transactions like we do with family and friends is probably something that I won't do in the future.
Gotcha. Were there any relationships lost?
No, I don't think so. Time heals all wounds, and I can look at myself in the mirror and know that I didn't do anything, to hurt anyone or do anything maliciously. So, it recovered. A couple bruises, couple bumps and bruises, but nobody died, and I think everybody's better off right now because of it.
Gotcha. Now, you started next quarter, February 2nd of last year. So your 1-year anniversary is coming up.
That sounds about right. You gonna buy me something?
And you came in, you decided you wanted to be here, but at the time it was just you and your business partner. Let's talk about the evolution of your business since then, because a lot has changed.
Sure.
In just under a year. So it was just the two of you, and where are you now? Where are you today?
We currently have 5 staff members, including the 2 of us, so 7 total. And we are probably going to be growing significantly this year. And I would say that is the biggest challenge, is measuring the growth, and when you need to add somebody full-time or when you need to contract out and outsource things. But it's also the one thing that I would say of the top 3 things that I'm passionate about. I love creating opportunities for people that are also entrepreneurs, that want to do things differently and are very passionate about work. As you know, our staff is here, 24/7 it seems like sometimes, and we're not watching the clock, and and that to me isn't something that you can draw on paper. That
Right.
takes a little bit more out of the people that you're hiring, that they're also as passionate as we are about things, and I think that's one thing that we've been successful at, is finding those people that buy into what we're trying to accomplish and are willing to do whatever it takes to get it done, and that's something that I really, really like about what we have going on right now, and similar to what NextCore has going on. Your people are here as often as ours are. So
Yeah, I had somebody tell me one time, or rather ask me, can you explain work-life balance? And I had I had an answer that I think surprised him. I'm curious to see what your answer is. So what is your take on work-life balance?
Well, you can relate to this as much as I can. Rachel's my business partner, but she's also my life partner, as you and Lauren are. And so the challenge with that is I'm always working.
Right.
The challenge is how to cut it off when you get home. It's all business when we're here, but at what point do you draw that line when you get home? And in our case, I feel like we manage it pretty well. I'm a whole lot more passionate about the day-to-day operations than Rachel is. She does a great job of leading the team, and she's here every day. And sometimes when we get home, I just need to understand that just because my mind works 24/7 about this business, not everyone else's does. And so that's where it becomes a challenge. So I would say within the last 6 months or so, I've made a real conscious effort of when I'm with my kids or when I'm at home or when I'm at my son's baseball game, the text messages can wait, the emails can wait, the phone calls can wait. There's very rarely an emergency that needs to be dealt with right now, and that's hard for me. I always want to deal with things as they're happening, and so I've done a better job the last 6 months to a year of being able to draw that line and say, okay, I'm at my son's baseball game right now. This can wait until afterward, and so I'm continuing to work on that, and that's where the challenges are. But it's all part of being a part of this.
Can you edit that out so my wife doesn't see it? Just don't even put that in. So I'll give you a version that you can be proud of, and I'll use one that I can be safe with. So we'll go from there. So just a couple questions about you personally. You spent some time overseas.
Yes.
And you brought some unique perspective back with you and some lifelong relationships that you've shared with me. So tell me what it was like. Well, number one, tell me what branch you served in, and thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you.
But tell us a little bit about your military career.
I enlisted in 1997. Recently had graduated high school. Was talking to a friend who had enlisted, and I didn't know where I wanted to go. I was lacking direction. I'm not a corporate type of guy. School wasn't, my favorite thing to do, and all of a sudden the opportunity to join the Army popped up, and I capitalized on it, and it leads you down a path that you don't always know where you're going, and you don't have a whole lot of choice in the matter to begin with, and so. In 2001, obviously in September of 2001, we had the terrorist attack in New York, and it was pretty clear that the life in the military was about to change significantly. It wasn't going to be back at base anymore. We were going to be going overseas a lot more. So February of 2003, we deployed. We went to Iraq. Went to Kuwait originally, then went to Iraq, and I was there until April of 2004. I was a team chief on the psychological operations team with the 101st Airborne Division, and spent most of my year in Mosul, Iraq.
Gotcha. When you knew you were going overseas, how did you feel? It had been about a year since 9/11, a little over a year when it became clear that we were going to be going to Iraq. We had already been in Afghanistan. I didn't personally go to Afghanistan, but the U.S. had a major presence in Afghanistan. So it was one of those things where it's coming. For me personally, at the time, my mother was going through stage 4 ovarian cancer, and so that made it difficult to leave. Because I knew that when I got back, she might not be here, and so that was the biggest thing. But it was also probably one of the most inspirational things that I carried with me on a daily basis. Being in combat's difficult, as anyone could vouch for that's ever been there, and there's a lot of emotion that goes into it, a lot of challenge and trial and tribulation that go into it, and knowing that I was making the world or at least attempting to make the world a better place as she was going through what she was going through, was an inspiration for me. But simultaneously, it was a real challenge not having
the interaction with her that I would have liked to have had during that time for her. I would talk to her on the phone maybe once a month. She would always ask me how I was doing, and if everything was okay, I would tell her yes, and then 2 seconds later a bomb would go off or shots would be fired, and she would hear them, and then so that was a bit of a challenge. But it's certainly a life-changing experience that makes me see things differently today, even 15 years later, than I did prior to that experience.
So when you got home, was your mom still around?
Interestingly enough, I was deployed from February 03 until April of 04. I was going back to get my mail one day at our division headquarters, and prior to leaving, my commander came up to me and said, "Can you stick around for a little while? I don't want you to leave yet." And I said, "Sure." I stuck around. They delivered a Red Cross message and gave me a phone and told me I needed to call my dad. I called him from the roof of the Mosul Hotel that overlooks Saddam's palace, and he informed me that the doctor said it's time to come home. My mom had about 5 days to live, and so I was put on emergency leave. Came home for 2 weeks. She died while I was home. I was able to talk to her before she died. I was able to attend her funeral, and then I went back.
Gotcha. Would you say that was one of the most difficult things you've gone through?
It was. It was very challenging in a lot of ways, and kind of internally polarizing. When you're in a combat situation, you grow. The bond that you create with the guys you're with is unbreakable for a lifetime. I mean, 15 years later, these guys are still like my brothers. And so, for me to be home in St. Louis, putting my civilian clothes on every day, even though I was going through that with my mother was going through that, and my family was having a real hardship, I was being pulled back to what was happening to the guys I was with, what was happening to the guys I was leading, as they were still fighting the battle. And so it was real challenging for me to be home, and it was a situation that there was no right answer. And so I did what I could. I was there, spent some time with my mom, and then as soon as the funeral process and everything was over, I was on a plane and back over.
Now, is that something the military does for anyone facing a situation like that, when possible?
Yes. I think that there are stipulations on what your relationship is with the person. Obviously, a parent falls into that, and I'm not sure exactly what the stipulations are in terms of how close you have to be to the person, but yes, they would accommodate that as well as the birth of a child.
That's really cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So, very cool. You went through a divorce, and I know that can have an impact on your life. So what was that like for you?
Very challenging as well. It's one of those things that you don't ever picture yourself doing. You don't get married to get divorced, and the decision to do so is challenging. And then going through with the decision is another challenge. And it's not an overnight process, and so to this day it creates some challenges. My ex-wife is great. We have a great relationship. She loves our kids. I love our kids, and we do everything we can to co-parent together. And I would say that we still have a really good friendship.
You just went through a difficult time as it relates to your ex-wife.
Really pouring it all out here.
Yeah. It's I actually couldn't think it was off limits. So tell us, are you comfortable?
Yeah. My ex-father-in-law was a great guy, unbelievable guy that I one of 5 people that you'll ever meet in your life. One of those types of guys. He passed away a few weeks ago suddenly. And so it's been a real hardship on my kids and my ex-wife's family as well, and everybody that knew him, really, including myself. So that's something that we're adjusting to with the kids. They were very close to their grandfather, and It's something that most kids experience if they're lucky enough for their grandparents to be alive when they're kids. And, it's one of those situations where their time with him, Owen being 11 years old, Will being 6, as much struggle as they're going through right now, I think that they would both agree that going through this struggle right now is worth the trade-off of having the time that they had with him. Whereas maybe never knowing him, they wouldn't be going through this, but they also wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn all the things that he taught them and spend the time that he spent with them.
I think a lot of people that meet you have an immediate impression of you, and there's maybe accurate, maybe inaccurate. It's really not relevant for what I want to get from you. So for the people that maybe have met you, have an idea of who they think you are, or whatever, tell us who Joel Rutherford is. And if you had to get a sentence or two out to deliver to anybody that may be seeing this, who are you and what makes you tick?
Well, I think the perception that people have of me depends on where they meet me. When I'm here, generally I'm in the zone. I'm focused. I'm worried about making sure that everything that needs to get done gets done. And if you meet me at my son's baseball game or out at a social gathering, you probably have a different perception of who I am. At the end of the day, I like to think that I'm somebody that cares a lot about things and about people, and making sure that I'm doing the things necessary to carry out the obligations that I have to my kids, to my family, to my employees, and to the residents that rent from us, and to the owners that we manage properties for. And when you are at a point where you're trying to fill all of those buckets, sometimes you can hyper-focus. And so I think that there are people that probably meet me that think I'm standoffish or distant. And I think that if they met me in a social setting, they might not perceive things that way.
I've met you in both settings, and I would say they definitely would not perceive you as standoffish in a social setting.
Yes.
So we've asked Joel to do a segment later this week where he films about our beer fridge and being unlocked on Fridays. So tell us.
It's very important. Yes.
Yeah. So if I could get you to share your favorite thing about being at NextCore.
I think it's the support and the collaboration of everyone that comes here. I think that there's a feeling that you get walking in the door here that's a very positive one. And I think that, I've been a real estate agent, real estate broker for several years now, and when you're working in the big franchise brokerages, you have interactions in the office with your colleagues and your associates, but at the end of the day, those people are also competitors that you're working with as a real estate agent, and you're all competing for the same business for the most part. I think here at NextCore, that's not the case. Everybody is, you have photographers here, and you have web designers here, and you have, people that are in financial planning or the restaurant business, or you have so many of these different industries that all come together here that the feeling is more one of support than it is of competition. And that's what I really enjoy. And there are times when people come to us just looking for advice on renting a property, or they need to rent a property, or they have a friend that is in a bad situation and maybe needs to move quickly. And I really like that we are always here to serve those needs of people. And so I would say that that's the biggest differentiator in terms of working out of an office is there's no competition here. Everyone's working together.
Very cool. Couple just follow-up questions, and then I'm going to let you end it however you'd like to end it. But when you started this new business or rebranded the business, when you started the partnership with Rachel, what would you say in this year or so that has been the difficult thing about building this type of business? Because you're building this a different way and faster and bigger than you had built before, I think. So what has been the biggest challenge you faced as an entrepreneur, especially now that you're divorced and different work-life balance? So how does that tie into this new business?
The work-life balance piece of it is something that is important to me. I didn't ever have that before. You know, you start a business and it's just so all-encompassing, and you know that you need to make it work at whatever cost. And so this time, I think that I am equally focused on making the business work, and then also making my personal life work. I'm not good at that, admittedly, but it is a focus. And it is a challenge that we continually face, and I don't know as a business owner if that ever really goes away. I think that for a lot of people, it's just in your DNA. I think you fall into that category, and I think I do as well. I don't know that I'll ever overcome the challenges of work-life balance, but I can try.
All right, so you're a big fan of St. Louis,
Absolutely.
too. So I gotta hit you with a couple just basic things. Best place to eat in St. Louis for someone coming in from out of town.
Oh, wow. Are we doing breakfast or dinner? Breakfast, you have to go to Red Oak on Cherokee in Pennsylvania. Derek Schultz is a friend of mine, and he is very, very passionate about his craft and does a great job. So I would definitely recommend that. And then as far as dinner goes, oh wow, I'm so passionate about the city that I bounce around every time we go out to eat. I try to go to a different place just because I love supporting entrepreneurs, especially in the city. So I can't really, I don't know that I could really claim a favorite. They're all great.
All right. Mozzarella or Provel?
Provel.
You are a St. Louisan.
Yeah.
All right. Best landmark. Someone's coming in from out of town. What must they see?
The City Museum downtown is really cool. I think that that's something, especially for people that have kids, that they should definitely experience. This Forest Park is something I think is very unique that we have here in St. Louis. There are so many things to do there. You could spend your whole day there and still not see everything. And then the obvious answer is the Arch. I think they did a great job on the renovations over the last 2 years, 3 years, however long it's been, and that's great. If I had to pick one, somebody's coming into town for the weekend with their kids, I would say the City Museum.
Gotcha. What state are we in?
Missouri.
Say it again?
Missouri.
Okay. I hear Missouri a
Not
lot.
for me. Yeah, that's more of an outstate.
Gotcha.
But yeah, definitely it's Missouri.
Fair enough. So I'm gonna end my segment here, and I'm gonna turn this to you. And I'd like you, someone who's very passionate about your kids, and I hear you talking about them and their successes and things that are important to you. If you were to deliver a message that you'd want your kids to see 10 years from now, whether you're here or not, what would that message be? And I'll kind of let you end with a send-off to them.
I think that the thing that I try to promote with them is just to care about people and to treat, the golden rule: treat people how you want to be treated. And I try to instill in my kids my passion that I have for the city. They love coming to the city with me and hanging out and doing all those things. And they're great kids, and I think that sometimes in St. Louis is as scattered as we are, that a lot of people grow up in their little bubble. And so one of the things that's important for me as it relates to my kids is getting them out there to see different things and see different people and experience different cultures. And the world is a big place, and there's more good out there than bad. And if you get out there and experience it, instead of sitting at home watching the news, I think that is the one thing that I would encourage them to continue to do is to get out there and try new things and meet new people, and not sit at home and watch the news and think about how bad things are.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here today. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of Next Core. Joel Rutherford, Impact 5. Thanks so much.